You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1167 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. It is the first day of a new month. It is the day of a major press conference for the Nationals. So they on Wednesday at 9 a.m. have the introductory press conference for their president of baseball operations. That person reportedly will be Boston Red Sox senior vice president, assistant general manager Paul Taboni. Going to be very interesting to hear what he says and how he says what he says. And this is the day on which the Commanders begin practicing for their game at the Los Angeles Chargers this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. The Chargers, a team with an all-time great theme song from back in the day. Perhaps you've heard this from their time in San Diego.
The time has come. You know we're shooting for number one. Thunderbolts and lightning will light up the sky. We'll give it all we got and more with the supercharger.
Yeah, that is catchy, I must admit. But lots of injury questions for our injury-ravaged Commanders. Principal among those questions, of course, will quarterback Jayden Daniels play this Sunday? Will he return from his 2-game absence caused by a left knee injury? The Chargers have been hit hard by injury, too, and they, like the Commanders, are coming off a bad loss. So the Commanders, the 34-27 loss at the Atlanta Falcons this past Sunday afternoon. The Chargers, a 21-18 loss at the New York Giants this past Sunday afternoon. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. We on Tuesday afternoon had reports that the Commanders are signing veteran unrestricted free agent receiver Robbie Chosen to their practice squad. If you're wondering who is Robbie Chosen, he is the former Robbie Anderson, is best known for his time with the New York Jets and Carolina Panthers. So this season is his age 32 season, but he has undergone multiple name changes. Robbie Anderson, with Robbie spelled R-O-B-B-Y. He then went with a different spelling of his first name, R-O-B-B-I-E, and he then went with a different last name, Chosen. So a player who has undergone multiple name changes has joined our NFL team, which has undergone multiple name changes. Hey, if Robbie Chosen goes back to being Robbie Anderson, does that mean that the Commanders go back to being the Redskins? No? Okay. Next segment, high-level analysis of what is wrong with the Commanders' defense and how to fix it, as we'll speak with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark is going to go in-depth on what is going on with the defense and how it can be better. And there are some hard truths that we are going to confront with Mark. Among the many topics that we'll get into, why the defensive struggles are more on the players than on defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr., whether cornerback Mike Sainristil, who is not doing well as a slot corner, should go back to being an outside corner, whether quarterback Marshon Lattimore, who is not doing well, should be moved to slot corner, how the defensive front is doing, and a lot more. You will learn a lot by listening to what Mark has to say about the situation with the defense. I know that I learned a lot. Mark Bullock, next segment, with a 5-star breakdown of the Commanders' struggling defense. Before we get to some feedback, so I mentioned the big press conference for the Nats on Wednesday morning. Well, we on Tuesday morning got good Nats news. Outfielder Dalen Lyle, he won both National League Player of the Month for September and National League Rookie of the Month for September. A tremendous achievement. Lyle, just the 11th player in the National or American League ever to win both Player of the Month and Rookie of the Month in the same month. Dalen Lyle in September 2025, batting average of .391, on base percentage of .440, slugging percentage of .772. Sensational. And yes, September was garbage time for the Nats this season, but still, he in September was outstanding, and he is a legitimate candidate for National League Rookie of the Year. The two problems, a lack of volume of work. He in the 2025 regular season played in just 91 games, and B, his advanced defensive stats are quite bad. Also, sad news, the death of former basketball star Lawrence Moten. He was just 53, was found dead in his Washington, D.C. home on Tuesday. Really sad. Lawrence Moten, he went to Archbishop Carroll High School in Washington, D.C. He then went to Syracuse University, and he still is Syracuse's all-time leading scorer. He played for Syracuse for the 1991, 1992 through 1994, 1995 seasons, and his NBA career included him playing for the Wizards in the 1997-1998 regular season, their first season as the Wizards. The saying back in the day, perhaps you remember this saying, poetry in Moten. Not poetry in motion, poetry in Moten. I love that saying. Rest in peace, Lawrence Moten. Also, pro wrestling. It is not a sport. It is sports entertainment. But there is a ton of crossover in terms of sports fans and pro wrestling fans. I am among the people who make up that crossover. And did you see what WWE made official on Tuesday morning? John Cena, one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling history, his final match will take place at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. This for an installment of Saturday night's main event on Peacock on my birthday, December 13th. How about that? No, I am not John Cena's opponent. Not yet, anyway. But very cool to see DC get the honor of hosting John Cena's final match, at least what is being billed as his final match, because if you know pro wrestling, you know that so few people ever actually truly retire. Terry Funk, an all-time great, he famously retired about 23 different times. But the Washington, D.C. area has a very rich pro wrestling history, and that history is about to grow even more. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Angry feedback regarding the Commanders' loss at the Falcons, especially as it relates to the Commanders' defense, from Brendan Drake on X. Writes Brendan, bad defensive scheme and coaching. Thank you for that, Brendan. From Dat Alien B on X, writes the alien, when will Whitt be on the hot seat? Personnel isn't his fault. However, the defense was putrid all last year, embarrassing in the NFC Championship game, and in the second year of the defense, it somehow manages to be worse versus teams with any talent offensively. Thank you for that, alien. Email from Yassine. Writes Yassine, good day, Al. I was extremely mad about Washington's gutless defensive performance versus the Falcons. Despite the offense having moments with Marcus Mariota at quarterback and a bunch of receiver backups, the team put up 24 points, and the game was winnable until the defense played poorly all day. I hate to even ponder saying this, but I wonder if a winning season is in store. I was hoping that the team would shore up some of the defensive issues and just get better there, but I don't see a Joe Whitt soft defense even being close to a shutdown defense this year or in the next 5 years at all. We can talk about schematic changes to the moon, but the fact is that the defense lacks talent everywhere. Oh, we can easily say that Marshon Lattimore is a joke, but the rest of the defense, Sainristil, Martin, Reeves, Wagner, Luvu, and the front four, all or just poor, except rookie corner Trey Amos, who looks okay covering this year. Honestly, I don't see any toughness on this team except for a couple of guys. It was too early to be successful, perhaps. Just hope the team can build each year to actually improve. I don't see Washington coming close to beating the Chargers, and Washington could be 3 games out of first with only 5 games played. This season, as we go into October, looking very bleak already. I know Jaden Daniels is returning soon, but we cannot, as a football team, rely on Jaden being Superman every week. It just doesn't work year to year in pro football. The defense must improve, or the entire coaching staff needs to be replaced. Thanks for taking the time to read my email, Al, and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you for the email, Yassine. Email from Doug Wilson. Writes Doug, "Hey Galdi, I asked my friend Paul after the game whether we would have won with Jaden and Terry, but once I thought about that, I realized that even though we could have won with those two, we would not have deserved to win because of the way our defense played. And that's where we were for much of last year and now this year. Jaden could possibly save us in spite of our poor play, but that doesn't make us a good team. Sunday was just another defensive embarrassment. We are old and slow and don't have enough talent. There could also be coaching concerns, but how could anyone like me know that? I'm not there to see the process. Anyway, all of this is why I don't get upset about a loss like this. We're just not that good, and it's obvious. Last year's NFC Championship appearance was fool's gold, as I said before. As always, hail to the Redskins, and thank you for the great content that you provide to us. Well, thank you for the email, Doug. Here is the reality with the Commanders. We are just 4 games into the team's 17-game regular season. The team is 2-2, despite having played the last 2 games without its superstar quarterback, and the hope/expectation is that the superstar quarterback will be back for the next game. Are there reasons for concern? Yes, there are. The team is getting hammered by injury, and the defense has looked so bad in each of the 2 losses. But all is not lost. The season is not over. I heard a rumor. I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard a rumor that the team is in fact going to play these next 13 games. The rest of its season has not been canceled. During head coach Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon, had this exchange between 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham and Dan Quinn.
So through 4 games, 2-2, as the head coach, what have you seen so far? Obviously a mixed bag. What have you liked, and maybe what haven't you liked?
Yeah, so I would say I thought offensively the guy's done a good job with the ball, in terms of taking care of it, being mindful for it. We've not created enough, takeaway opportunities defensively, so I'll start with that, right, kind of at the top of the pile. I think we're gaining on our running game, and making progress into that space. Up until the second half, I was pleased with where we were gaining ground on 3rd down on defense. But overall, just, let's make sure consistent at it, Scott. No roller coaster like this is how we go all the time. And I want that play style to be wherever we're at and however we go. And so we'll dig in hard to do that.
Yeah, and the team, of course, needs to dig in hard on the defense. So much more on the defense next segment with Mark Bullock. If you are a Commanders fan, check out bgobsession.com, an outstanding site for Commanders conversation. BG Obsession, or BGO, has been going strong since 2009. No politics, just friendly and passionate discussion about the Commanders and more. Great contests, game day chats, and camaraderie. Both old school and new school fans are welcome. Visit and join BGobsession.com. bgobsession.com, home to your burgundy and gold obsession. Well, if you're like me, you care about your car, but you're not the biggest fan of having to get work done on your car. This is where Roda comes in. Roda is a DMV-based auto shop that makes taking care of your car so easy, it feels like magic. Roda has a team of best-in-the-business technicians who can service any make and model across any maintenance or repairs and detailing. With over 1,000 Google reviews, Best Auto Shop on Yelp, and Nextdoor awards, your neighbors are loving Roda, and you will too. Roda is tremendous. You can book any car service online in under 3 minutes. Roda offers free towing or valet. Roda literally will pick up your car and bring it to the shop in Rockville, Maryland. service the car, and return it to you. Over 80% of Rota services are done on the same day on which they're booked. Rota offers price matching, honest flat pricing, and financing. Rota offers free inspections on your car and shares everything found via video and pictures. Drivers approve only what they want to. Visit Rota.com, that's RODA.com, and use the promo code GALDI20 for 20% off any service. That's Rota.com, promo code GALDI20 for 20% off any service.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hey, if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. The Commanders' defense has looked bad in 2 of the team's last 3 games, right? The 27-18 loss at the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football on September 11th and the 34-27 loss at the Atlanta Falcons this past Sunday afternoon. And to the extent that defense in the modern NFL is a function of the quarterbacks who the defense faces, consider this. Each of the Commanders' next 5 games is against a quarterback who ranks in the top 15 of qualified NFL quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR in the 2025 regular season. We have the 2-2 Commanders at the 3-1 Los Angeles Chargers this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. The Chargers' Justin Herbert is number 12 among all qualified NFL quarterbacks in total QBR, 63.8. Commanders home to the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football on October 13th at 8:15. The Bears' Caleb Williams is number 15 among all qualified NFL quarterbacks in total QBR, 62.3. Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday afternoon, October 19th at 4:25. The Cowboys' Dak Prescott is number 4 among all qualified NFL quarterbacks in total QBR, 74.2. Commanders at the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football on October 27th at 8:15. The Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes is number 3 among all qualified NFL quarterbacks in total QBR, 75.1. Commanders home to the Detroit Lions on Sunday afternoon, November 9th at 4:25. The Lions' Jared Goff is number 7 among all qualified NFL quarterbacks in total QBR, 70.1. Each of the Commanders' next 5 games is against a quarterback who ranks in the top 15 of qualified NFL quarterbacks in total QBR for this regular season, and 3 of the 5 quarterbacks are in the top 7. The defense needs to be better. I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Commanders analyst Mark Bullock. Mark is exceptional at talking Commanders from an X's and O's standpoint. He does tremendous Commanders All-22 breakdowns. You can read his work on his Substack, Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark has written for The Athletic and for The Washington Post. He also is a Commanders fan. You can follow Mark on X at Mark Bullock NFL. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Could have been a little bit better after the weekend, but yeah, not too bad. But how about you?
Doing well. Looking forward to what you have to say. Now, you on X on Sunday night put up a post with your initial notes on the Commanders' defense in the loss at the Falcons. Very detailed notes of watching the television version of the game before examining the All-22 footage. Is that your usual process, compiling notes from the television version of the game and then doing a deep dive via the All-22 footage?
Yeah, well, it generally depends on how they've played, and whether I feel like I need to go back through and rewatch and get an idea of like in this game, the defense was so bad. It was like, well, what happened to all these different plays? Why were they having so many different busted coverage and stuff? So I'd rewatch and then have some notes and there were other notes that were like formational things and seeing if there was any trends, and there were certain issues that they were having, or just trying to break down whatever big plays happened from whatever broadcast angles that they and replay angles that they show, and then wait until I get the All-22 to kind of reconfirm those notes. So yeah, that is something I generally try to do, but yeah, it can vary if they've had a really good game, and we've seen like last week where they just ran the ball all over the Raiders. Then I'll be like, well, I know kind of what I want to do, and I just wait for the All-22 to come out the next morning. So but yeah, generally after a loss I will go back through and rewatch like that.
Now, I did not see any obscenities in the notes that you posted on X. Did you delete the obscenities, or were there in fact no obscenities?
No, I polished that up a little bit before I put it out, so there can be notes like that, but I made sure to polish a more safe for work version.
All right. Well, Mark's Substack is a must-read if you want to truly understand what is going on with the Commanders on the field. You on Monday on your Substack put up a breakdown of the pass defense in the loss at the Falcons. Headline, quote, Commanders film review, coverage problems versus Falcons, end quote. The frequency with which the Commanders are giving up big passing plays is painful. The frequency with which opposing pass catchers are running wide open against the Commanders is painful. The struggles of this pass defense, are they more on defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. or the players?
So for me, I think it's more player-driven issues right now. A lot of the things that a lot of the issues that they're having is that they'll play man coverage and Marshon Lattimore will get beat by someone, or Mike Sainristil will get beat by someone, or a safety will get beat by a tight end, or Bobby Wagner will get beat by a running back. And it's, you know, that they made a very clear path for themselves this offseason where they were trying to become more of a man coverage defense. And we know that Dan Quinn and Joe Whitt had transitioned from, you know, Dan Quinn was the Seattle cover 3 guy to, in Dallas, they wanted to blend in a lot more man coverage, and that's what they did, and that's what they wanted to do going forward. And last year they tried at the start of the year to play a lot more man coverage, and the corners couldn't hold up, and they had to transition away from it and do other things. But we knew that they wanted to become that kind of man coverage defense, and so that was the identity they wanted, and they went and got Marshon Lattimore, who was once one of the best man coverage, press coverage, cover corners, and that hasn't really worked out to date. They drafted Trey Amos, who has been pretty good in man coverage. Sainristil they also drafted, and he played well on the outside last year. He struggled in the slot, and he struggled transitioning back inside this year. So they made these moves to become a better man coverage team, and they just haven't paid off so far. And they really struggled in man coverage. Now there has been coverage busts when they played zone and other things as well. And in fact, in this game, they came out more trying to play zone. Like the first couple of drives, they played more zone. And in fact, the very first third down they had, I think it was 3rd and 5, and the Falcons motioned Drake London across the formation, and he was in a stack set with Kyle Pitts, and the safeties rotated. Jeremy Reeves came down, Quan Martin went back deep, and they rotated to what should have been just a very basic cover 3, but they had a bust with Trey Amos and Jeremy Reeves both playing the flat, and nobody played deep, and that left Kyle Pitts running free up the sideline for 26 yards. and that was the very first third down. And then afterwards, the rest of that drive, and then on the second drive, they continued to try to play zone, and they would have little busts like that. And you at a certain point, you think, oh, well, this is on coaching. They gotta do something. Or they're having coverage busts everywhere. They play zone. They can't communicate and pass things off properly. If they play man, they just get beat. But at a certain point, it's also on the players, right? You're playing basic cover three. Like it's not like they are trying to do some weird disguise with a defensive lineman trying to play the deep middle of the field and a defensive end dropping out into the deep third and the corner blitzing and it's still cover three, but it's a weird funky one. It was very basic cover three, and they busted it. And that should be very easy to pass off and run properly. And it doesn't get more basic than playing man coverage. You know your man, you go cover that guy. That is very basic and simple. They just aren't covering their guys properly and losing their matchups. So I think Joe Whitt's been put in a pretty hard spot because he tries to play more zone to help out his corners and their busting coverages. Then he has to play man coverage, and that's the identity that they want to play. But Marshon Lattimore and Mikey Sainristil keep getting beat, or Bobby Wagner keeps getting beat when he gets matched up, and they've had safeties try to match up with tight ends, and Will Harris kept getting beat by Tucker Kraft, and then Will Harris gets injured, and they moved Quan Martin down, and he got beat by Kyle Pitts this week. It puts you in a real tough spot as a defensive coordinator if you can't call zone and you can't call man. What can you call? So for me, I think the players really need to step up in that secondary and start executing a lot better.
There was optimism, albeit cautious optimism, with the Commanders' secondary coming into this regular season, but the secondary has been by far the team's biggest problem. Did we overrate and overstate the talent in the secondary?
I don't know if it was overstated. I think something I said a couple times going into the season was that there was a lot of potential in that secondary, but every corner had a legitimate question to be answered, and it was, can Marshon Lattimore stay healthy and get back to being what he once was? Can Trey Amos battle the kind of general stuff that a rookie goes through and prove to be a starting caliber corner in his rookie year? And can Mikey Sainristil adjust back into the slot after he struggled in the slot to start last year and then shifted outside and he played a lot better outside? Could he adapt to playing back in the slot? And those are three legitimate questions about their three starting cornerbacks. And you felt pretty good that you might get a yes and a positive answer to maybe two of those questions, but maybe not necessarily all three. And there's a positive answer so far on Trey Amos. He's done a really good job, generally speaking. Mikey Sainristil has had a really rough transition back into the slot, and to his credit, he played a little bit better in the slot in coverage this week, but he still got beat a couple of times, and he's had a really rough start to the year. And Marshon Lattimore, everyone's seen Marshon Lattimore's getting picked on and stuff, so he's had a really tough time. So far, they've had two negative answers and one positive one on those three questions that we had going into the year. If they can flip that into, maybe a more positive one on Sainristil, and maybe you make some adjustments where if Lattimore continues to struggle, you put Sainristil back outside, you have Sainristil and Amos, and maybe you bring Noah Igbinoghene, or if Jonathan Jones comes back healthy, you put him in the slot, and you have some more positive results that way. But right now, it does feel like that they are going to need, if they can't change the personnel due to injuries or whatever, it feels like they're going to need Sainristil and Lattimore to play through these rough patches and find some form to improve, and maybe that involves changing the coverages and stripping everything back and playing more basic zone stuff. But Dan Quinn in his presser on Monday said they didn't feel like they had to strip things back yet. They felt like it was emphasizing what their calls and their checks are, and making sure that the guys are communicating that on the field properly. So I guess they're not feeling like they are doing too much and being too complex, and I don't think they're being too complex either. They're running very basic things. It's mostly man coverage. It's mixing in cover 3 and Tampa 2, which are, coverages that everyone in that defense should have played since high school. And then they're occasionally mixing in like a cover 6 or something like that, or quarters where there's a few more different checks, but it's not like they're running the most complex defense in the league. It should be fairly simple, and they should be passing things off better. And they're in year 2 of the system. It's not like it's some massive new thing that they're doing. They have built slightly on what they tried to do last year, but it's still the same identity. So it's confusing to see why they're struggling so much with the different busts whenever they do play zone. But I still think their biggest problems are when they play man coverage, they're not winning matchups, and ultimately, if that's the problem, then you have to either change a player or start changing your coverage ideas.
Much more with Mark Bullock in moments. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. It will fight for you and win for you. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict, this in Baltimore City Circuit Court, in a case in which the Nace Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace, he is a big Commanders fan. He is a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. We're talking with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. So you mentioned the struggles of cornerback Mike Sainristil. We, during head coach Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon, had this exchange between Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports and Quinn.
Between last season and this season, Mikey Sainristil, the inside, outside, you've kind of, done a little bit of both over the last season. And then, of course, with this season, a switch. What is your assessment thus far on how he's doing and if he would potentially go back to what you all were doing last year?
Yeah, I was pleased to see a lot of what he did at the nickel in this game, Kenny. I thought he had some good tackles. He was aggressive inside, had the interception. So I was pleased to see Mikey improve from last game into this game. And so I thought he and Luvu were two that stood out to me of some things that had real progress.
Commanders general manager Adam Peters, during his press conference on the night on which the team took Mikey Sainristil in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of the University of Michigan, April 26, 2024, made it clear that the Commanders saw Sainristil as a nickel corner, as a slot corner, as a star corner, as the team calls that position. But Sainristil last season had problems playing the slot, and now this season is having problems playing the slot. He last season did do pretty well as an outside corner. Should the team move him back to being an outside corner?
I'd be tempted to move him back. I'm not sure if I'm quite there yet. So coming out of college, one of the things I felt about Sainristil was when he played man coverage in the slot. If he played off and with vision, being able to attack down on everything, and this was general rule whether he played outside or inside. When he played off and with vision and able to attack down on everything, he was really, really good. And we saw that last year when he played outside. They often played him sort of 8 to 10 yards off the ball, and he was able to drive down on most things and keep everything in front of him. And when he plays outside, he has a much easier job with where his leverage is. Obviously, he has the sideline to help him. The receivers don't really have a two-way go the same way that they do if they're in the slot. They can work inside, outside, and they can still work vertical and underneath. Whereas on the side, when you're outside, you've got the sideline to help you. There's only really so much space for them to go outside. You have a lot better understanding of where receivers trying to go when you play outside. When he's in the slot, what he struggled with was in college was when receivers got level with him, and like if he played press or even if he was a little bit off, but receivers would eat up that cushion. When they got level with him, he would struggle with them, with what direction they were going and trying to stick with them. As I say, when he plays off and he stays has everything in front of him, he can see everything clearly and he can read the cues of, oh, they're slowing their feet down, or they're given this kind of body shape where they're going to break in or they're going to break out. When he's up in press or tight to receiver and they get level with him, he doesn't read those cues quite so well, and that's when he struggles and gives up separation on routes. And we saw it on kind of a curl route with Darnell Mooney in this game. It was second and I think it was second and 13, and he gave up 15 yards on a curl route to Darnell Mooney on their second drive, and it was in the slot, and he tried to give himself space by bailing back and keeping Mooney in front of him, but Mooney ate up that cushion, and once he got real tight, Sainristil kind of panicked and was like, oh no, he's going to run by me deep, and he used the speed turn to turn and try to stay on top of it. As soon as he turned his back to Mooney and the quarterback, Mooney broke off the route and was wide open underneath and caught a 15-yard pass very easily. And that's the kind of thing that he struggles with when a receiver gets up close and he's not keeping his vision on everything. He struggles to identify what those clues are that a receiver is going to break one way or the other. And that's something that I think it's just going to take him time to learn to develop. And it was something that was consistent in college, and I wrote about it when I broke him down after they drafted him. That was a thing that he struggled with, and he struggled with it to start his rookie year, the first few years when he played in the slot. The first few games when he played in the slot, and then they kind of transitioned him away from that because he was also struggling with run fits and stuff, and they played him outside where he's able to play, as I talked about, off with vision, and he did a lot better because he had much more clues as to where the receiver was going, and we saw him thrive like that. So moving him back outside is definitely an option. I do think that we can also consider, like, this is what his like sixth or seventh game now where he's been a slot corner in the NFL, because it was like 2 or 3 games last year where they transitioned him outside. So he's still kind of a rookie when it comes to playing slot. So I wonder if they'll give him a little bit more of a leash, a little bit more leeway, and say, hey, we want you to play through this rough patch. We still think you can be our slot corner. But obviously, like, if he continues to struggle, like they're still trying to win games, and if Lattimore continues to struggle on the outside, then an obvious option is move him back outside where he did so well last year and bench Lattimore and get someone else in the slot.
This may be crazy, but I'll ask it. Should the Commanders move Marshon Lattimore from being an outside corner to being a slot corner?
I don't think so. You could try it. Like, it's not like it's not something he hasn't done. When he was in his prime, he would follow receivers wherever they went, and that would include playing in the slot. And if he's up on the line of scrimmage, he can press and be a lot more physical. But I feel like he's struggling so much with when he's outside and he has the sideline as his help, as his leverage, and receivers don't really have the same two-way go that they do when they play in the slot. He's struggling enough as it is out there. I think if you put him inside into a spot where he hasn't played full time necessarily, then that might escalate the problems for him.
Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner, age 35 season, still very good against the run, still good as a pass rusher, but him in pass coverage, not so much. He consistently plays on 100% of the team's defensive snaps. Is there a way to make it so that he isn't in pass coverage, or is that an impossibility with him consistently playing on 100% of the team's defensive snaps?
Yeah, that you can't avoid it. Like, he's going to have to cover someone at some point. And I thought Whitt did what he could to try to limit those matchups. Like, even if you're saying, let's stop playing Bobby Wagner on obvious passing situations, let's play him on first and second down, stop the run, bring in Jordan McGee or Kane Modrano or whatever younger athletic linebacker in on third down and passing situation. But that wouldn't have stopped the Bijan Robinson 70-yard pass where he was on that wheel route and he was isolated on him, because the Falcons did a really nice job. It was a 1st and 10 play. It was the start of a drive. They went with 12 personnel, so that initially screams, okay, this is a run. They've got 2 tight ends on the field. It's the first play of the drive. It's probably going to be a run. We want Bobby Wagner on the field because he's our best run defender. He gets everyone lined up and he reads the run better than anyone else. He fits the run better than anyone else. We want him on the field for that. And at that point, the Falcons had been running the ball pretty well. And so we want Bobby Wagner on the field for that. And then the Falcons took advantage. They manipulated that matchup. And if you want to play man coverage, then Bobby Wagner's going to have to match up with someone. And you can't hide that. Like, he's going to have to either cover the running back, the tight end. Nobody really wants him covering the tight end. Or then if you avoid the tight end and the running back, he's going to have to cover a receiver. Nobody wants him covering a receiver. So he has to get matched up with someone. And they generally do a pretty good job of limiting his exposure to tight ends and receivers. But that means he's going to have to cover a running back. And this week there was a pretty good running back playing receiver a lot of the time in Bijan Robinson. And that's a tough matchup for everyone. But it's like, okay, we take him off of the running back. Where do we put him? And you don't want to put him on Kyle Pitts. He would have got beat by Kyle Pitts too. It's impossible to avoid him covering basically nobody. Like, you can blitz him, and they tried to blitz him. You can play him as the underneath zone defender in you play cover one, and you have him as the underneath zone guy to pick up crossers and stuff, and they did that from time to time as well. But at certain points, like, he's going to have to match up against someone. It is just unavoidable. The Falcons, credit to them, they got their matchup on that and let Bijan Robinson play. Otherwise, I thought they did a fairly good job of limiting that exposure.
You on Tuesday on your Substack put up a breakdown of the run defense in the loss at the Falcons. Headline, quote, Commanders' poor tackling leads to wasteful run defense, end quote. The Commanders' defensive problems primarily are about the secondary. What's your evaluation of the team's defensive front?
So I think there's some real positives up front. The main thing would be run defense. They obviously really struggled last year. I think they were like ranked 30th in the NFL last year with the run defense. That they were getting run all over. They really struggled on the edges to contain runs, and part of that was because they had issues in the secondary and they had to keep a safety back deep, and they were constantly light in the box. This year they've been more trusting of their coverage, so they've kept the safety in the box and they've had better numbers, and that's allowed them to fit things a lot better. But I think we've seen the run defense has been fairly consistent. Like, even this game against the Falcons, the Falcons got off to a good start, but they pegged it back. And after those opening 3 drives, the Falcons the Falcons run game kind of dropped off from a really healthy yards per carry average to like 3 to 3.5, and that is very healthy from a defensive standpoint. So they pegged it back, and I think a lot of the issues they had in this game with the run defense was missed tackles more than anything else. They did a really nice job of fitting the run, generally speaking. They had guys in the right spots to make stops. And in fact, they had quite a few plays where like Kinlaw or Deron Payne or Frankie Louvu made a really nice play to put themselves in a position to not just make a run stop, but make a tackle for a loss. And then they just let Bijan Robinson or Tyler Algier break through a tackle, and it would turn what should have been a tackle for a loss or a stop for no gain into a 3 or 4 or 5 yard run. And those 3 or 4 or 5 yard runs weren't necessarily hurting them at that point, but it hurts when it could have been a negative 3 yard run and it turns into a 4 yard run. That's a 7 yard swing, right? So that I felt hurt them more than anything else. But I actually think positively they are fitting the run a lot better than what they did last year, and that has been consistent through the 4 games. So that is a positive. I think the 2 interior guys, in fact, all 4 interior defensive linemen have played really well against the run. Deron Payne and Kinlaw have been very, very good. Johnny Newton's taken a step forward against the run this year. Eddie Goldman has done better than I thought he would as well. I think they are lacking in pass rush a little bit, but I think they knew that. Like, I think we all knew that they didn't go and get a star defensive end. They didn't go. Obviously, they didn't go trade for Micah Parsons, but they didn't land Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby or Myles Garrett or any of those guys either. And we knew they were going to lack from a pass rush perspective, but I think they were okay doing that because they knew they could generate pressure if they were able to blitz more consistently. And the hope was that they'd be able to blitz more because the coverage would hold up on the outside. They'd play more man coverage that would free up a body to blitz. And we have seen that when they've blitzed. When they've rushed 5 or certainly when they've rushed 6, they've generally got pretty decent, consistent pressure, and they've brought some nice schemes, but the man coverage has to hold up on the outside, and that's kind of the same issue they had last year where the coverage didn't hold up, so they had to stop blitzing, and then you have to come up with some different schemes to try to generate pressure with 4, and they haven't had the success doing that yet. So I do think there is positives, certainly in the run. And the interior guys, they are still lacking a little bit on the edge. I do think Dorrance Armstrong has taken a step forward, but they're still lacking that truly elite guy on the edge to be able to generate pressure consistently with 4. So they're still needing to find a way to bring a 5th rusher and blitz. And if the man coverage holds up, then they're able to do that more. And that is the whole identity of the defense. But it hasn't been holding up, so they've had to try to drop more guys in coverage, and then they're relying on 4, which they don't consistently generate the pressure with.
Final question. If Joe Whitt called you and asked, is there anything that I should be doing differently? More zone coverage, personnel change, whatever, what would your answer be?
In my view right now, I think the players need to be playing better, and I think the players are capable of playing better. I think we saw last year, Mikey Sainristil is capable of playing better than the level he's currently playing. I think Marshon Lattimore, obviously historically, is capable of playing a lot better than what he's currently playing. And I don't think this is a situation where it was like with Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera, where they signed William Jackson as this really good press man corner, and they're playing him in zone. They're making him do the wrong thing. And then they draft Emmanuel Forbes as this really good zone corner with ball skills, and then they put him up in press coverage on A.J. Brown where he can't handle a guy like that. Like, I don't think this is a situation where they're taking guys and misidentifying what they do well and then playing them in the wrong spot. I think we know Marshon Lattimore has been historically a very, very good press corner. We know Mikey Sainristil played press and man coverage in college. Trey Amos was a really good press coverage in college, and has transitioned to the NFL pretty well. So they've identified what guys do well. The guys just aren't playing well right now. So I don't think it's a drastic overhaul necessarily needed. I think it's guys need to start playing better than they are. And if they don't start playing better, then you have to consider, okay, well, they can't play the way we thought they could or what they used to. Then we need to adapt and maybe we need to play more zone. But I don't think it's as simple as playing more zone, because they tried to play zone in this game and they busted the coverages. And as I said earlier, it wasn't a case of like, oh, they're playing really complex zone coverages. They tried to play basic cover 3 on that first 3rd down and they had a bust. Like, what I don't know how Joe Whitt tells them to go play cover 3. He can't go and run the deep third for them. Like, those guys have got to know that we're playing cover 3 in this situation, and we've played cover 3 since we were 10 years old. We know what to do, right? I think the players have got to be accountable for those kind of things. And if it continues, then obviously you do have to consider trying to simplify things. But I think what Dan Quinn said in his presser on Monday was that they don't feel like they're there yet, where they have to simplify and really squish down what they're doing. I think they just need to do a better job of doing what they're doing.
Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark, thanks, and we'll talk soon.
Of course, talk soon.
All right, tremendous insight from Mark Bullock on the struggles of the Commanders' defense. Some more on that. We on Monday afternoon had this exchange between Candy Waller and Dan Quinn.
Pulling on the thread a bit about communication, that was a point of emphasis for you all, all summer.
Yes.
I know, we talked about that quite a bit. So what are your thoughts on what could be happening and why that's not materializing in game?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line, Candy, between like trying to play perfect and hitting, communication and being loud on the go. By being perfect, what do I mean by that? Like sometimes speed motion happens, being so careful that you're late on a communication. You're not quick on it to go. And so I really want our guys to really trust their training. They've put good work in and allow that to, fully be expressed and heard and acknowledged. There's not that many moving parts, with different people on the defensive side. So we want to make sure we can nail that. It could be as easy as communication could have been, you said it, did I receive it on a call when somebody's going quickly? It doesn't always mean like in motion or in the one. We had a pressure that didn't look as good. One player was doing one thing, thought he heard a different call or a different technique. So I just want to make sure they trust their training. Like, we don't have too many different things up. Let's make sure, like, call it, let it rip, be aggressive.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this defense right now. Big time onus on the team to get this defense to be better. The defense doesn't have to be elite, doesn't have to be dominant, just needs to be decent. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home? Whether it is time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate, and for listeners of the Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You can also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday's show, episode 1168, will provide you with more on the Commanders as they on Wednesday begin their practice week for their game at the Los Angeles Chargers this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. Also on Thursday's show, we'll talk Nationals as we on Wednesday at 9 a.m. have the introductory press conference for the Nats President of Baseball Operations. So that person reportedly will be Boston Red Sox Senior Vice President, Assistant General Manager Paul Taboni. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.